I always ask if you are on the correct thing. A year ago, I was giving a tour. Husband and a wife got on at the very end. I saw their little ticket. It didn't look familiar. I thought, oh, I'll just let it go. I'll deal with it, after the tram ride. Done with the tram. They said, Susie, you did a great job. Where's the rest of the tour? I said, it's a 1-hour tour. They said, well, we were supposed to have a tour of all of the auxiliary gardens. I told them they were on the wrong tour. Not a good situation. So now I always ask, so welcome. How many of you, is it your first time here at the Arboretum? Welcome, welcome, welcome. How many of you are members here at the Arboretum? Thank you. Thank you. How many years have you been a member? Over 20 years. Double thank you. How about you? 5 years. Wonderful. I always ask, last year again on one of my tours, I asked, someone has been a member since 1958. I mention him on every tour because I think what a wonderful thing. And hopefully I can get to that point too where I got that many years into it. All right, so I always like to mention to people, we're kind of a popular spot here in the Twin Cities areas. As a matter of fact, across the country. Last year we had over 500 visitors. You ask, 500 visitors? How do you get 500 visitors, in the year? Well, we're open every day but 2 days of the year. We're closed on Christmas and we're closed on New Year's. The next question is, who comes to the Arboretum in the middle of winter? You'd be surprised. We have snowshoeing, cross-country skiing, beautiful things that happen in the Oswald building where we might have a spring flower show in the middle of February when all you want to see is just a little bit of green and not a lot of white, right? So that's a wonderful time. Spring is a season that's absolutely fabulous to be here. I'll ask my friend from Switzerland. How many tulip bulbs do you think the Arboretum plants in the fall to bloom in the spring?
5,000.
5,000. How about 40,000 tulip bulbs? 40,000. Thank you for saying 5,000. The last tram said 250,000. Totally overshot me. Just overshot. So yes, 40,000 tulip bulbs. If that's not enough in the early spring, well, it was about 2 weeks ago. Imagine 150 crabapple trees blooming all at the same time on 3 Mile Drive. If that's not enough for you, we're getting into late spring. There's 60 different lilac varieties across the street, 60 different varieties. If that's not enough, well, she's still kind of holding on. It's the famous red bud, a Minnesota strain red bud that the University of Minnesota put together. How do I know it was created through the University of Minnesota? The maroon and gold plaque that sits in front of it. When you're walking around the Arboretum, you might notice there are plaques that look like this black one right here, or there's maroon and gold. When you see maroon and gold, it was invented through the University of Minnesota. Beautiful tree. The redbuds still are blooming, not as vibrant as they were a few weeks ago, but they're still going, all right? You'll see them in the Genesee Gardens and on 3 Mile Drive. Summertime. Well, you can about imagine, right? Summertime might be gorgeous here. You know how gorgeous it is? Every single senior in high school is getting their graduation picture here. Every single senior in high school. Lovely area, lovely. Everything's blooming. The prairie is absolutely gorgeous in the summertime. So that's fun. In the fall, what can I say? Oh, I gotta start. Okay, I gotta ask. Do I have anybody from Washington State here? Good, I can trash talk their apples later. Good, we have apples here. Apples here in Minnesota. University of Minnesota has created many, many different apples. So apple season, very popular. The beautiful fall colors of the maple trees. How about 300 different pumpkin and gourd varieties that will be right across in this little roundabout will be displayed in the fall. Winter, how many of you have been here during the holiday season? You have. The holidays display, if you want some fun, come here during the holiday times. Only the Arboretum can make beautiful flowers, waterfalls out of holiday lights. It's absolutely gorgeous. All right, enough with the seasons. You came from Oswald Center. I call it the third visitor center. I'll explain later. We had to build Oswald because we're growing. 500,000 people. We need a little more room. The cafe, beautiful area to have lunch or a little dessert. The Reedy Gallery is in transition right now. We'll be putting up its new artwork here shortly. And then a gorgeous gift department. Can't beat it, right? So that's our beautiful Oswald Center. Now, when the landscape architects were developing or coming up with the concept of Oswald, they wanted to welcome you. Now, it's a little tough to see now because it's still early spring. But look at my little cluster of Karl Forster grasses on the other side in the roundabout. Do you see how some of them are waving at you? They're going to get to be about 3 feet taller, and in the late summer, fall, they are waving at you. That whole area over here is Karl Forster's, and that's what they're doing. The backdrop of the Karl Forster's is our gabion, our caged gabion wall. Who is familiar with gabion? Oh, good. No, I've got something for all of you. The gabion goes as far back as a form of erosion control that they used for the Nile River. Okay, so it's old. So some of the things I'm going to talk to you today are what's old that now is new again, or that has kind of changed its spout. What the architect wanted to tell you was that it's a warm, inviting area. Such at night, is this going out? This could be trouble. So at night, what actually happens, there's a glow from lights below, and it goes over the green rocks, and it's very, very, very pretty. If it is your first time here at the Arboretum and you haven't been to the perennial gardens, I try to tell everyone between the Oswald and the Snyder building, there's a pathway that'll get you to the perennial gardens. Mainite salvia, peonies, nepeta, some more flowering bulbs. The allium glaucums are blooming. Many, many, many different things are blooming in that area. So if you can go through and enjoy that later today if you have not been there yet.
I'm very afraid. What I'm going to do, I'll plug this in when I get back in. I'll just shout out right now some of the rules that we'll have. And I'll get this working once we get inside, when I get in my tram. Hold on to your hats today, everyone. It's a little windy out there. Also, arms, legs, keep them all inside. I don't want you to get run over by someone else on 3 Mile Drive. I have a surprise for you. We have wildlife out there. We, on my 12:30 tram, discovered 2 sand cranes with their babies. We have 2 little baby sand cranes out there. There's turkeys. Lots of wildlife right out there. So, if you see that, please shout out so we can all look for it. But other than that, try to keep talking to a minimum. You've paid for me to talk, so just let me talk for an hour and we'll go from there, all right? Now, the most important thing is if you like my tour, my name is Susie and I'm from Maple Grove. If you don't like my tour, my name is Mary and I'm from Sheboygan, Wisconsin. Okay?
Is that sounding better? So as we're leaving the Oswald Center, I shared with you that I consider it our third visitor center. We're going up to the Snyder building, which I consider the second visitor center. Unique to the Snyder building, a few things. The Anderson Library. If you're not familiar with the Anderson Library, please come visit it sometime. I know on Mondays it's closed, but it's open every other day of the week. We're noted in the nation for having quite an extensive library here. third in the nation as far as inventory. Number one, the National Archives. Number two, Cornell University. Number three, the Landscape Arboretum. If you feel like coming to our library, let me just share with you that there's 19,500 books that go as far back as 1503 to present. There's 76,000 nursery and seed catalogs that start from 1614 to 2022. If you are a fan of beautiful, and I say beautiful woodwork, George Nakashima has some of his collection in our library. It is made of burl oak and it is absolutely stunning. Now the Snyder Building was named after our first director, Leon Snyder. So again, our second visitor center at the very far end of this building is the conservatory, where we have a beautiful collection of plant material in there as well. Now to my right, we have a perennial garden, and I like to call it the tried and true. You see, it displays color for the majority of the seasons, minus the winter, of course. But let's say you're a novice at gardening, or maybe you are somewhat experienced in plant material, but there's just a lack of color at a certain time of the season. Come out here. Every week there's something new that's blooming. Beautiful color. All right? As I mentioned before, our collection of lilacs, and there are more on our 1,200 acres, but this is more of a concentrated area of them. 60 different varieties. I also like to point out trees that you may not be familiar with. So directly to my left, and it's just leafing out now, you see pods on that. That is a Kentucky coffee tree. Water conservation is important to us. I bring it up as we're going through our parking lots, that you see a lot of vegetation that is in our parking lots. That is for runoff. Now something unique to the Arboretum that won't be here for a lot longer. It's kind of seen its days, and it wasn't expected even to last as long as it has. But to my right, it's a structure that's done by an individual named Sam Doherty. Oh, look at that little sweetheart coming out of there. And Sam is noted for working with willow as his art form, all right? And he's done pieces all over the world, 300 as a matter of fact. And what he always does is when he's in the area, that what he builds is something that resembles part of the area that we are from, okay? But he always also puts a name to his piece. So, ladies and gentlemen, I introduce to you, You Betcha. You Betcha. Very cold winter that we had this year, and the very long winter that we had, and the very cool spring nights that we had, made it a wonderful opportunity for us to make maple syrup. We make maple syrup down in this area coming up to my right, called the Frog Hollow Workshop and the Maple Sugar House. If you've never tried our maple syrup mousse. Now, there's a little bit that goes into maple syrup. Just so you know, we did the record this year. We had 180 gallons of maple syrup. It takes 33 gallons of sap to make just 1 gallon of maple syrup. So we had a lot of sap this year. Great opportunity for us to make maple syrup. Now, coming up to my right is a spot you have to stop as well. It's our Japanese garden. Smaller in scale than to some of the other Japanese gardens and arboretums across the country, but so beautiful. As you walk in, you hear the sound of water, and you're trying to figure out where's it coming from. You all of a sudden look to the left, and it's a waterfall that's beautiful. That represents kind of what the Minnehaha Falls waterfall was. Beautiful Japanese garden. Over 300 varieties of hostas. Some collections as small as a 50-cent piece. So if you're a hosta lover, check it out. To my left, we have the first of our rose gardens, the Rose Walk. Beautiful phlox to my right. In the rock garden. We're kind of going through the transformation. Our 40,000 tulip bulbs have kind of seen, got the best of them now. So we're slowly transitioning out of our tulip bulbs. And Doug Otto, who is in charge of our annual gardens, will be putting in our annuals. And I'm willing to bet they'll be in by this weekend, okay? But you still see some of the beautiful allium glaucum bulbs. Those are the purple, they're the purple ones with kind of the round head. Just a beautiful bulb that I have to tell you goldfinch love. So you want to put some allium glaucum bulbs in your yard this fall. Now, we're going to go from old to new. To my right, you're looking at what was created by Dr. DeVos. You see, Dr. DeVos wanted to teach you how to garden. Okay, he wanted to show you how to grow vegetables, what a formal garden looks like, what an informal garden looks like, maybe what a low maintenance garden looks like. Maybe he wanted you to learn directly to my right how to shape apple trees. The apple tree is, again, directly to my right. You can see the trunk, and it's got, each of the branches have been trimmed and trained to look like a goblet. Okay. Hi, Ted. Ted is in charge of this area. Just a beautiful display.
There we go.
Are you getting your cameras out? Get your cameras out. Ready? Okay. We'll talk a little bit about this. Directly over me right now, over the cab, is a ginkgo tree. The ginkgo tree goes as far back as the dinosaur age. So I always like to show off my ginkgo trees. But slowly, we're going to drive past the woodland azalea gardens. Now, I'm going to tell you, the azaleas are just barely showing. So look at what it looks like. We also have a great pond in that area that you can see the little ones.
Did you inherit one, or how did you find that?
Well, when I was in, I studied at Purdue, and they had both male and female. And literally, if you look at it, they just look.
Now, remember how I shared with you that there's a little controversy about visitor centers? Well, ladies and gentlemen, in my opinion, this was the first visitor center. To my right, Barron's Cabin, just a little cutie patootie. Now, as we're entering what we call the big woods, imagine an area from Faribault, Minnesota up to St. Cloud, Minnesota. Before the time of industry and agriculture, this is what that particular area that I talked about looked like. It was the big woods. And to my left, if you look down the ravine, we can still see some sections, because the canopy isn't completely covering it, of the wildflower gardens. Gardens. Of course, you can walk from the visitor center, or we have a couple parking lots that you can bring your car and then come into the wildflower exhibit. We're now heading into the shade tree exhibit. 40 different varieties of trees that do quite well in this particular climate. As I said, the red buds are still holding on a little bit of their color. A little shade demonstration to my left, showing children the wonderful opportunities that shade trees give us. The one little house in sun, the other underneath a shade tree, and they recognize how cool that house stays. Now, let's say many years ago, you were growing up in southwestern Minnesota. To my right is what you would have woken up to every morning. It's the prairie. We have restored the prairie to give you an idea of what it looked like. Not a lot to it right now, but bursting with color in about another month. Also low maintenance. There is no irrigation going on in this particular area. And about the only thing that we really are responsible for is a controlled burn. Keeps the big woods out, plus it keeps away the invasive thistles, etc. that might get into it. Now, we have a condensed version coming out that's to my left. So if you want to learn about the natives and the prairie, great opportunity for you to learn about them. We're now coming up to our weeping trees exhibit, deciduous and conifer. Deciduous meaning leafy, conifer, of course, evergreen. So, you see our beautiful weeping willows, our weeping crabapple tree, but past the crabapple tree, maybe some of you can see our conifers. Anybody see some elephants in the area?
How's that coffee?
About 25 years ago, the Minnesota Nursery and Landscape Association brought an individual here to teach us how to do freestanding walls. There is no mortar, all right? Like I said, they've been there for 25 years. Again, something very old, very European, East Coast, is now very popular again. No mortar. I bring it up because Paul Granlund is one of the artists that we have here at the Arboretum. You'll know his work when you see it. You'll recognize other pieces. Directly to my right is Paul Granlund's Swimmers. Swimmers in Frolic. Now, I always like to talk about Paul because I love how his art looks. And he was quoted at one point in time saying that he compares the pouring of bronze to the experience of flying. And you kind of get it, right? You see the swimmers, and they all kind of look like they're flying in the air. I just think it's such a beautiful piece. Again, Gustavus Adolphus graduate from St. Peter, Minnesota. I like to mention this particular area, and we're going to spend a few minutes here. These are the sculpture gardens of the Arboretum. It's the largest endowment that the Arboretum has ever had. The Harrison family out of Wayzata gave us all of these beautiful pieces of art. 16 different artists, 26 different pieces that all stem from the 20th and the 21st century. And this is kind of a nice spot for you to see the majority of the pieces. We'll start with the walking path up to where that individual is taking a picture of the limestone bridge. That happens to be done by Renee Kung. It was built in 1995 from Switzerland, to my friend from Switzerland. Yay! And unique in the sense she likes to talk. I took a quote from one of her speeches that she gave. And she comments, by leaving the stone untouched in some places and expertly worked in others, you can think about humans' ability to transform the elements of nature. Renee Kung from Switzerland. She also has a piece all the way across, almost directly across from the other side. It's a beautiful harp, and she likes to let you know that she hears music through nature. Now, directly to my right, you see the Apache spirit dancer. And I love this form of art as well. I love how the clothing that he has almost looks like you could touch it. Almost looks like a brushed suede, doesn't it? A little bit of information for you. The high point here at the Arboretum is directly up the hill. Unique in a few things. One, if you sit there on a very clear day, you can see the Twin Cities skyline. On a rainy day, you might wonder, where does all that rain go? On one side of High Point, the rain goes to the Mississippi River. On the other side of High Point, the rain goes to the Minnesota River. Now we have a couple going around the piece called Four Open Rectangles, about directly right here in the middle of the garden. George Rickey was the individual that built this sculpture. He was an engineer by trade, and it ended up that he went to World War II. After he left World War II, he decided he wanted to be an artist. He tried painting, wasn't enough for him. We're lucky in the fact that he chose kinetic sculptures because it's one of two in 20th century sculptures for movement as a central theme. George Rickey. The very colorful piece that you see next to Four Open Rectangles was done by an individual named Philip King. Now, Philip King came from London. He was not happy with his friends from London. He felt that they did not appreciate the art the way it should be appreciated. So he called up the Harrison family and said, do you want to buy my piece of work? It's called Reel 3. The Harrisons said, okay, we'll buy Reel 3. Bring it over to the United States. Brought it to Minnesota. I talk about this piece because it's not called Reel 3 anymore. It is called Wayzata Wheel. Very seldom, if ever, does an artist change the name of his work. Wayzata Wheel. Now the couple that you see out there behind Wayzata Wheel. This is a piece I always get a kick out of because it's different. Like I've tried to figure it out. What I always tell all of my friends on my tram drive is, if you're bored at home one day, maybe you have company or friends in town, and you don't have anything to talk about. You've just run out of conversation. I want you to come out to the Arboretum, and I want you to come and visit that piece, because I still can't figure it out. Well, that was the artist's whole thought. You see, it's an Italian piece done by Mimo Palladino, and it's called Night Song. Quote unquote, art should generate ceaseless questions and never give answers. Very true. Take a peek at that sometime. Now, on the other side of our drive, on my left, is our gardens, our shrub gardens and evergreen gardens. It's the Gordon Bailey Senior Garden. Many of you are familiar with Bailey Nurseries. Very, very proud of our plant material that we get from Bailey Nurseries, planted all over. A beautiful display of shrubs. And here too, if you want to come with your car, park with your car, come up and visit some of the beautiful colored azaleas. Just gorgeous. Of the Chinese garden below. It's our newest garden. And with the sumac not fully leafed out yet, you can kind of get a visual of what part of the gardens look like. Here's a nice little swatch where you can see peonies. They'll be coming in a couple of weeks. Our last of the rose gardens, our shrub rose collection. I call it the easy schmeezies. Every one of you could grow these beautiful roses. These are not the hybrid teas. These are standard shrub roses. So not as much maintenance as the hybrid teas. Just a beautiful spot. Maybe you want to come visit Oli and Lena. Oli and Lena shrub roses are in this little area amongst plenty of others. Now, you're on 3 Mile Drive. I'm taking you on the tram. We are driving 3 Mile Drive. We also have 3 miles of walking tours. You wake up one day, you decide, I'm coming out to the Arboretum. I'm going to take a 3 mile walk. And then you're, kind of going and you're thinking, maybe 3 miles wasn't what I had on the agenda for today. We have a little shortcut for you. You see where the gated fence is, there's an opening directly to my left. That is a shortcut so that you can get back to the main areas of the Arboretum. And I'll show you that spot in a little bit. As we're entering the Chinese gardens, you're going to notice a few things. You're going to notice, of course, the moon gate that's coming up. And that's a point, once you pass the moon gate point, it's taking you from the busy side of the world to serenity, to the serenity of the Chinese gardens. The rocks are unique, and they were a present to us given from the Chinese. They don't look at them as rocks or boulders. They look at that as majestic mountains. Collection, which too is nationally recognized. We have the native pines, of course, but then we also have pines from northern Asia and northern Europe. Now you can kind of get a sneak peek of some of the azaleas that are blooming directly to my left past the pines. It's a whole row that goes around. Of our shrub collections. Remember the days when all we had was to twist and shout to endless summer, tree form, shrub form, are hydrangeas to the right. To the left, more azaleas that are blooming. We also are unique in the fact that we are the only arboretum in the country that still maintains a hedge collection. Per square foot, more oxygen is given off on a hedge collection than any other form of plant material. So there are benefits to the hedge collection. Now I'm slowly turning to the right. You're slowly going to look to the left and look up the hill. You see, I'm taking you to where old and new are. The old barn that was built by the Post family back in 1910 that we gave a little facelift to in 2019. Okay, so that's the old. The new is the research that we have happening up there that we got started. So let me tell you a little story. You wonder, how did this all get to be? Well, there was an individual named Peter Gideon in the late 1800s that moved his family from New York and moved here to Minnesota. You see, his goal was that he wanted to produce fruit in a cold climate. He wanted to make an apple. He was successful. He made an apple. He named it Wealthy. Wealthy, the name, you wonder? It was his wife's name. So, we have Wealthy the apple. Word heard, or the U of M research heard about this guy named Peter Gideon, and they decided, let's contact Peter. Well, if he can do a cold, something in this cold climate, maybe we can work together and find other things. And hence, that's how the University of Minnesota and Peter Gideon connected. Now, I'm not going to talk right now because I'm going to look for our sand cranes, because on the past two tours to my left, there were sand cranes that had the two babies. So if you see them, please give me a shout and I will stop. Where are you? Don't see them right now. Maybe we'll see them on the way back. Did you see something? I saw somebody like, okay, no. Another little trivia. Peter Gideon, you all are familiar, some of you are familiar with Lake Minnetonka. If you have heard of Gideon Pond, that is where Peter Gideon had settled, and that's where he produced the apple. Now, you say, oh my goodness. Okay, so what else do we have going? Well, my friends from Cargill could all tell us what else we've got going. Constant research, right? Constant research, agriculture, apple production. How about grapes? How about wine? Yes, 50 years ago, were there vineyards in Minnesota? I don't know. But guess what? They are now. You see, we figured out how to grow grapes in a cooler climate. This too is something, research that happens. And again, everything dealing with extension. All the questions throughout greater Minnesota, Wisconsin, the Dakotas. All learning opportunities for all of us. So all the way from the old to Dr. DeVos, all the way over to new. Constant new research coming up. As a matter of fact, I heard that they're in the process of being able to come up with a eatable grape, like an actual grape that you can have on your tables. Hopefully we'll come up with something like that. All sorts of things in the making. And now to my left, we saw them earlier. A whole flock of turkeys are kind of nestled in that little wooded area. So if you see them, give me a shout.
I already see too many turkeys. Daily basis.
that's unique about the Big Red Barn is that it's got a lot of history posted on some of the different families who were here, who were living here. Also talks about a lot of the research that has been done here. So again, the Big Red Barn, just a beautiful spot to learn more things about our egg culture there. And I must tell you, this is kind of a new hot spot. It's where we're having a lot of our galas and parties, classes, teaching children how to harvest sugar beets was something that was done last fall that I thought was fun. All sorts of different programs. So here again, our grape collection, youngest to oldest. And our apple production, youngest to oldest. Now, this is where I get personal with all of you. I've been married for 40 years. My husband, who I love, his name is David. When I ask him what is his favorite apple, he tells me red delicious. I know, yeah, right? Well, I think it's good. How many of you have ever had sweet tango? First kiss, right? Oh, good. Look, I got some. Yes, yes, yes. Please try sweet tango, first kiss. Honey Crisp, all U of M winners, right? We have an apprentice program here at the Arboretum in Minnesota, and that's what you're seeing to the left. Some more plots, some more research to the right.
Those trees go through it. It's on the ground.
If you want to learn about bees, I strongly suggest coming here. Ask for Ping. She's our head beekeeper. I noticed that there must have been something going on one of the tours because you can actually put on bee suits and work with the bees if you choose to. Also some great interactive displays that teach you about honeybees. The Big Red Barn, our brand new education center. If you want to learn more about different varieties of fruits, we have the fruit weight paths that are behind these gardens. It too is a great spot to view the Arboretum and see everything from a higher standpoint. Some of you might wonder, how do we maintain this? Well, a lot of it is from you. I thank you for being on the tram. I thank you for your memberships. I thank you for your admissions coming to the Arboretum today. Many of you are members. Greatly, greatly appreciate it. Many different venues, weddings, classes that we offer, all sorts of things. The University of Minnesota gives us about 18% of the budget that we have to maintain. But the true individuals that make this are our volunteers. We have over 2,000 volunteers that help here at the Arboretum, and they make it spectacular. I always can say I can be in my cab and I can have the air on, or I could be in my cab and have the heat on, but I see many volunteers when it's very cold outside, or it might be raining, or it might be ungodly hot, and they're here making our areas beautiful. you all the different seasons that we have here in Minnesota at the Arboretum. We also have many, many classes. Maybe you're a fan of photography. We have photography classes. Maybe you want to take a hike over a full moon some evening. We usually have full moon hikes. We're even offering this year, I saw just the other day, tickets for seeing fireflies at night. Can you imagine all the fireflies that we can out here? Oh. Okay, I'm going to kind of go slow again, so maybe we can see the
Okay, not a big thing. It used to be like every summer night, it would just be like lit up outside. My parents had it about to my left, more of our display of the azaleas and rhododendron. And if you get a chance, I didn't do the walking path this morning, but I just can imagine the walking path must just be gorgeous because it goes all along. I make sure
Maybe you come to the Arboretum just because you want to get lost today. Our maze is to my left.
your house.
Everybody take a deep breath. Here we go. Get through this. Another collection that is noted here for national recognition is our ornamental grass collection. I can't get in there, the tram can't fit in there, but it is coming up to my left where all of these beautiful lilacs are blooming right now. Again, I shared with you, it's recognized. Mary Myers, through the University of Minnesota, spent 35 of her years at the U coming up with an excellent collection and well displayed in that area. A few other things that are blooming right now are the horse chestnut trees to my left. And before we get to the azaleas, please take a peek when you get a chance around the corner and see all the beautiful oak trees. You know, We're used to trimming branches, right, so that we can get the lawnmower underneath. Look at how low some of those branches can go. And now another photo op. Our collection of azaleas. And guess what? There's more to the right as well. As you look down the ravine areas. You might notice to my left the flags that are out there. That is a research area where we're looking at those naughty jumping worms.
That makes sense.
Those naughty worms. Now, my friends from Cargill, aren't you glad you're not in the office today? You're taking this wonderful tram ride with me. I read an article many years ago from the Mayo Clinic. They were talking about the benefit of nature, that how good nature is for us, for our health. Helps with anxiety, helps with depression, lowers blood pressure. But I don't have to tell you that. You're out here. You already know that, don't you? Beautiful. Just soak it in. Now we're coming up to the Magnolia collection. We're kind of coming to the end of that, but there's a magnolia that I'll show you up here that's still showing off a lot of its flowers. Okay, to my right, directly to my right, some beautiful magnolias. I love the leaves too. Beautiful tree. The shortcut from the shrub rows to my left, the shortcut, these are the steps. The beautiful showy mountain ash tree, we have a few of those. They are not part of the ash family with emerald ash borer. They're a compact tree. Maybe gets 20 feet high. They have the pretty blossoms right now. In the fall, you'll recognize the showy mountain ash by their orange berries. And I have to mention, our irises are blooming right now to the left. Again, you can always bring your vehicle and park in the different parking lots for easier access to some of these gardens. We're coming up to one of the parking lots right now that you can get access to the irises and to the wildflower gardens and sensory gardens. Or maybe on a Sunday afternoon you want to come to the Ordway Picnic Shelter, bring your lawn chair and enjoy live music. We have a variety of herb gardens that are coming up to my right. As a matter of fact, there's, I believe, 4 different varieties. One that originally was tools, one for medicine, one for actual cooking, and one for dyes, different dyes.
time, remember I mentioned that you can go through past Oswald and Snyder. Eventually you would end up right here. And to the right is the perennial gardens. And I was told by the head gardener last week, he put in some water plants, pond plants that he put in that fountain. So if you come back in the next couple days and weeks, little tadpoles, also we have all sorts of little creatures here that hang out in our perennial garden. Another thing that's beautiful right now and will be for the next couple weeks, behind the tulips, there are some huge bushes. Behind those bushes are peonies, and there are some that are in bloom already, and they look beautiful. It's kind of fun watching them plant the tulip bulbs because they can get it done in a couple days. You see, Dwayne Otto's very precise on how he wants these tulips. So you'll see these individuals with their colored maps of where every single tulip bulb is supposed to go. A couple days, it's done. It's amazing. Give you all A's today. 2 A's as a matter of fact. 1 for picking a beautiful day to come to the Arboretum. And number 2 for being outstanding listeners. It was a pleasure to have you on my tram. Thank you. Please have safe travels back home. Enjoy the rest of your day here. And thank you for coming.
Sometimes, not yet.